right, welcome. I'm Arman Assadi, CGO of Collective Shift, where we share the latest and best crypto analysis and advice on this channel to help you create more wealth and freedom. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe, and check us out at collectiveshift.io. Have a very special guest today, a special interview with Matt Harcourt, analyst at Apollo Capital. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you very much, Arman. Pleasure to be on. I've been following the Collective Shift journey for quite some time now. So yeah, it feels a bit surreal to actually be a guest for you guys.
Yeah, man. Well, I super appreciate your time. And obviously, this relationship between the companies goes back quite a ways, as you said, and you're kind of an OG. So this will be very cool. I have, as you know, 5 burning questions that I'll be asking you that I think I always want to know from every crypto degen that I can ever talk to. And I think these are the common questions that people in the industry tend to want to ask, because the lowest common denominator is what helps us make better decisions over time. So thanks for being here, man. Tell us a bit about yourself and Apollo Capital.
Yeah, sure thing. So I might start on Apollo Capital. So Apollo Capital started in February 2018, one of Australia's first crypto sort of hedge funds. We currently manage 4 portfolios across 2 broad strategies. So the first strategy being your classic long exposure crypto vehicle. So within that long exposure vehicle, we invest in things, as big as Bitcoin and Ethereum and all the layer 1 competitors. And then we also invest in DeFi. We have a focus on that sort of sector within the crypto asset market. And then we also invest in the bucket of NFT Metaverse Infrastructure. And then we also, utilize decentralized finance to yield farm with stablecoins. And then that is our other 2 portfolios. So our other strategy, which is market neutral stablecoin yield farming. A bit of a track record in the space, founded by Tim Johnson and Henrik Anderson. So Henrik Anderson, the CIO, had the best part of 10 years on Wall Street. He himself has founded 2 DeFi protocols, so DHedge and MStable. Beyond that, we sort of invest in early stage primary deals, so the venture capital style investing within each of those different buckets. Which is, the exciting stuff, but we are sort of limited in our capacity there because we do offer monthly liquidity to investors. And then on the personal side, I myself have been investing in crypto assets since 2017, since my first year of university. And then I've been at Apollo Capital for coming up on 2 years now. So I started part-time during my last semester of university. I actually majored in accounting. Thought I was going to go into audit, but during COVID lockdown, the big 4 weren't hiring as much. And then somewhere along the way, when I was sort of in lockdown, teaching myself about DeFi and getting real degen, I thought that I would chase crypto as a career. Wow. And reach out to Tim and Henrik. So straight out of uni, straight into crypto, and don't regret a second of it.
Wow. I could talk to you about some of those investment strategies within those funds for forever. And maybe it'll come up through some of these questions. I'm super curious about that. But very cool story, man. Where are you from? Melbourne?
Melbourne, Australia. Yeah. Born and raised.
Awesome. Give me one hobby. I'm just curious, like for everyone watching, listening, one hobby, one passion you're personally into as well outside of crypto. Can't say crypto.
Yeah, I guess I competed in the sport of athletics for, around 8 years, sort of competitively. Gave that up to a certain extent when I started full-time at Apollo Capital. But yeah, I guess the sport of athletics, bit of a athletics nerd at heart. Love that sport. Love other sports as well, but I think athletics has a special place in my heart. And, cool. I could go on for hours about how much better of a sport it is than a lot of things, especially swimming.
Awesome. All right. So I would like to hear your overall crypto investment thesis. Obviously, you guys have a wide variety of approaches and funds, and that's probably a challenging question to look at that from a macro perspective. But if you had to distill it down, how would you describe that?
Yeah, I guess, the Apollo crypto thesis is very similar to mine. I think we have a strong focus on decentralized finance, creating a more fair, permissionless, open, transparent financial system. We're very early in the whole decentralized finance revolution, if you will, and so we think there's a lot of value capture there. And I think an important way about how we look at decentralized finance is that it is more infrastructure sort of based. So if you look at the activities that a traditional bank does, you don't know 90% of what a bank does, but you can still be a depositor, and you don't need to know all the activities at a bank, for better or for worse. And I think it's going to be similar with decentralized finance in that, the average everyday person will reap the rewards of decentralized finance because of the work that other people are doing in decentralized finance. Mm-hmm. And they won't necessarily have to interface with DeFi themselves, but they can if they want to. And they can interface with it and participate a lot more than they ever could in traditional financial markets. Yeah. But I think the benefits, over the next 10, 20 years will be apparent to the human race, whether, the average everyday person interfaces with it or not. I think blockchain-based gaming will be a way to get the sort of financial agnostic masses into crypto in a way that decentralized finance never could. And I think that that's a really good thing. I think some of like the Ponzi-nomics sort of style of games isn't necessarily sustainable or the thing that will really keep people into crypto. But I think, if a young kid really wants to play in a blockchain-based game, they're going to go that one step to sort of learn about MetaMask, learn about how to sort of keep custody of their assets. And then that's going to get them over the tipping point. So I think with crypto, you got to get people past that initial tipping point. And I think gaming is that thing. It's not necessarily going to be someone who's going to be able to get 5% on their USDC. Young kids don't give a crap about that sort of stuff. And yeah, I guess that's my broad thesis on DeFi and gaming. And then obviously the layer ones are going to capture value if they can foster ecosystems in those two.
Yeah. I'm curious, what's your time horizon on those two sectors for mass adoption, let's say?
Oh, it's a tough question. I might have to consult my crystal ball first. Yeah, I think there's a lot that it all depends on. I think in the gaming side of things, like you need really good games, and you need it done, in smart ways. You need like the traditional gaming studios. I think a really good example would be like I used to play FIFA Ultimate Team.
Oh yeah, me too.
Where you had like. Well, yeah, where you had like the cards on FIFA that represented a player, and then that player was in the game. If that card was like an NFT, it would make a lot of sense. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of games out there where you could easily just slide in blockchain, and it would make a lot of sense. It's just whether they will take that up or not. So, I'd like to think within a decade, blockchain-based gaming will really take off. But I think DeFi to be like really significant will probably take longer.
Wow. Yeah.
A lot of people say like, oh, when's DeFi like going to, interact with like the real world? I sort of don't like that take in that. That's like saying that Bitcoin has an interface with the real world since it's, begun. It's very real. It's just sort of in the background.
Yeah, well said. Reminds me of, speaking of gaming and FIFA, reminds me of SoRare. I'm sure you know them. It's like a fantasy soccer, fantasy football platform combining NFTs, but a little bit of gaming. But I can only imagine what that company will do with the $500 million or something that it raised in the last bull run. So they're well capitalized for hopefully creating a lot of what you're talking about here. So shifting gears a bit, you're looking at these sectors. Obviously, you have the top L1s, you have these two segments, these two sectors that you're talking about. You're talking to a friend, obviously not financial advice, but we're here to talk financial, crypto stuff. What is your number one tip for investors in general, whether they're seasoned or not? It can be for a newbie, it can be for an experienced degen.
Yeah, I guess I have a couple sort of best tips. I guess the first one would be to define your thesis yourself. It could be different to mine. And then also define like how your thesis shapes your portfolio. So I think like a bear market is a really good time to consolidate, your thoughts about the market and then, make a portfolio that actually reflects that. We're not in a bull market where you need to like choose which dog coin you want to buy because that's the thing that's going up, or you don't feel like an idiot because things are going up that you haven't bought. So that would be a really important tip that I would give investors is to sort of consolidate what you're looking at, consolidate what you believe in, consolidate your thesis, and then build a portfolio around that. And then I guess the next best tip would be to find mentors within the space. A really good example of a mentor would be something like Collective Shift, where you can sort of go there for a source of truth and a source of information and someone that you sort of trust. Obviously, that they're not giving you financial advice, but you got to have those influences and also don't be afraid to chop and change between influences. Don't get too caught up in like, a single way
X
of thinking.
name Maxi or X way Maxi.
Yeah. And I mean, I've fallen culprit to that with Mr. Tone Vase back in 2017, Bitcoin Maxi. And pretty cringe.
Yeah. Well, the whole industry evolves. There's so many things that are constantly shifting and changing, and it's much bigger than any one person or any one company for that matter. So it's important to take in all the education you can. And yeah, thanks for the shout out. I don't have to make the shameless plug. Appreciate that. Now, for you personally, what's the biggest investing mistake you've made?
Yeah. So in the personal account, I guess the biggest investing mistake I've made was before May 2021 when we had that really big liquidation event where Ethereum halved in a day. So I myself was pretty long to the teeth and and a little bit leveraged and playing around in the options market. So I pretty much wiped out all the sort of incremental gains that I had made in my options account over the past year or something, wiped it out within a week because I thought that, things were going to go exponential when they were already exponential. And I think, the biggest thing that I learned from that was, when things are up so much and everyone's thinking the same way, you can't yourself be thinking that way. And don't sort of put all your eggs in one basket and bet on things going one way while they've already been going that way. I mean, the trend is your friend until it ends, and I think it definitely ended for me in that case.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I mean, you are not the only one. There are a lot of people that fell into that trap at that exact same time because that was a new era of adoption. And so here you are jumping in, looking at the space saying, oh my God, it's up only, super cycle, we're all going to the moon. It's just euphoria. Yeah. And so it's easy to fall into that trap. And that's a very cool mistake.
I did a 3 arrows. Yeah,
that's a good way to put it. So you've mentioned a few different sectors of the crypto space. There are more. I'm curious, which one do you think that most people are currently a little too optimistic about? And you can interpret that in many ways, however you like, whether that's from a sense of bullishness or price action or what the future holds. And what is another sector in which people are overly pessimistic about?
Yeah, I think there's not a whole lot of optimism in the market, I guess. But to wind back the clock a little bit, I think people were overly optimistic on some of those crypto gaming related like fundraisers. You know, you see like a game that is nothing more than sort of a concept with like 5 guys raising 8 million at a 40 million valuation. You know, us Apollo, we sort of stood away from that because we're not necessarily gaming experts. So we're not going to, start funding all these games like we are DeFi focused. So I think a lot of that sort of stuff, whether it's VCs or your average everyday retail person, I think, that was like overly hyped up by the market, and a lot of wind has been blown out of that sail. So I guess people aren't overly optimistic, but I would definitely err on the side of caution for retail punters. And now I guess like if you look at a token like ILV, Illuvium, it has come down a lot. So there is opportunity within that space. A space where I think that people are overly pessimistic, it actually might be like NFTs at the moment. Like I myself am not a huge NFT guy, but what I'm seeing with people talking about how much floor prices have come down, people freaking out about Ben DAO and those big liquidations, I think it actually represents a pretty good opportunity to pick up those NFTs that you like or that you've been looking at for a while. And, right now you might be doubting the fact, buying one because it has come down so much. But at the end of the day, the way that I actually look at NFTs is that they're consumer products. They're not necessarily investments. So if that NFT that you saw at 10K and you fell in love with it, and then now it's at 2K and you don't necessarily love it, well, like if you like the artwork or you like what it represents or, the community, now is actually a really good time to sort of get into that. Yeah. And the price shouldn't actually change the way that you look at that asset. Yeah, if anything, it should make you more excited.
Yeah. That's such a great example. That's so useful for everybody watching and listening, because when you think about the correlation to the previous example you just made, you're in the middle of a bull run. You don't know exactly, are you in the middle and beginning of it? You're following euphoria. You think it's up only. We make the same mistake in these drawdowns, in these bear markets, where if you look back a few months ago, Ethereum sitting at $900, 900 something, we're thinking down only. I'm going to wait till it's 400. And we lose those opportunities. We make the same mistakes at different parts of the cycle. And to your point, Bored Ape selling at a discount right now could be an incredible opportunity for the right person who has the ETH to spare, the Ether to spare. So very cool example.
Yeah, no, definitely. You overshoot to the upside, like I said, with my options account, and you definitely overshoot to the downside. And I still fall victim to that. Around a month ago when Ethereum, as you said, was around $900, I think I sent a message to Henrik, our CIO, saying things are going down, it's so bad. Everyone was super bearish, and then Henrik was sort of standing there. It's like, why is everyone so bearish? And then we rallied 100%. So, in that sense, he's a very good mentor. That he sort of his financial markets hardened, he doesn't really overshoot to the upside or downside. He's got a very level head about it.
You need that. That's very cool.
And that's why he's the CIO.
Yeah. All right. On this last question, I have a bit of a bonus question for you. Do you think that people are overly optimistic about the merge?
Yeah, I think you're going to get a sell the news event. I actually haven't. Yeah, so 1677, a little bounce off around, the 1600. I think you're going to get a run up from now into the merge. And then you're going to get a sell the news event like we saw with like the Coinbase listing. So I wouldn't say that people are necessarily overly optimistic. I mean, it is a good thing to be sort of happy about and for the community to celebrate. I just think you're going to get a run up and then a sell the news event.
Very cool. Awesome, man. Any final things to share? Any asks for the community, people watching, or anything to close out, and how people can follow up, keep in touch with you and Apollo?
I don't think I necessarily have any sort of closing remarks, but I am at DeFi Guy 3 on Twitter. Awesome. Or Matthew Harcourt, and then we have Apollo Capital AU on Twitter as well. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure. As I said, been a long-term fan of Collective Shift and sort of the Aussie grassroots crypto education platform. I think it's great. And I personally haven't been a subscriber, but I have, a few mates who have been subscribers to Collective Shift throughout their early stage of their crypto journey. And they themselves have done really well out of it. And one of my mates, a young guy, younger than myself, he's looking to go into Web3 and get a job in the space after he's done with university, and his journey started with Collective Shift. So one thing I would say to the sort of listeners, if there are listeners who are earlier in their journey, it's no matter how big the cryptoverse might seem, you can always find your niche. You can always find your pocket, and you actually shouldn't try and master everything. I definitely don't try and master everything. You sort of need to stick to what you know and stick to your thesis and try and specialize within that area, because crypto is way too big these days to be across all of it. Yeah.
Imagine in the future how big. It'll be impossible to do it all. That's really wise. Yeah. That's really wise. And appreciate it. It's important work we're trying to do. So appreciate the recognition, man. Thank you so much for your time, Matt. This was awesome. I'll see you soon.
Thank you very much, sir.